everyone, this is John. You're with me for another episode of our weekly show, The Subcontinent. Our episodes aim to address important issues in the subcontinent which affect the governments, people, organizations, and all other stakeholders involved in the region as a whole. We will try to explain the issues, break down controversies surrounding them, and try to have some external perspective from experts and people. Please stay with us.
In this edition of The Subcontinent, we shall see how the story of Karbala and sacrifice of Imam Hossein unites the people of the subcontinent. And we will see how some elements are trying to stop people from getting united under this message.
Before coronavirus, every year, several millions of people gathered together in Iraq for Arba'een, an event known as one of the largest annual gatherings of the world. These are not just Sunnis and Shias, but even Hindus and Christians walk hundreds of kilometers, mainly from Najaf to Karbala. The event marks the 40th day of the tragedy of Karbala, which happened in the year 680, when Imam Hossein, the grandson of Muhammad, the holy prophet of Islam, and several of his companions were mercilessly martyred, while women and children were held captive. All of this for what? Well, this was for protesting against a brutal tyrant king.
The tragedy of Karbala and the message of Imam Hossein attracts millions of people from all around the world to get together under the message of equity and justice against oppression. The month of Muharram is marked with large processions which happen all across the world on the 10th of Muharram, the day of martyrdom, and on its 40th day anniversary. According to Forbes, over 40 million people participated in the Arba'een pilgrimage in 2016, and the number keeps growing every year. These people mainly walk from the city of Najaf towards the city of Karbala, but some even make their journey to Karbala on foot from cities like Basra, which is almost 500 kilometers away. On their way, the pilgrims are served with not only food, shelter and water, but are even provided medical services and security.
Hussein is not confined to the boundaries of Shias or Muslims. I, being a Sikh, think he was the best person ever walked on the planet Earth because he sacrificed himself for humanity. Not for the money, not for the fame, not for the respect. Therefore, everyone draws inspirations from him.
Among the martyrs of Karbala, Hindus claim that one of their ancestors, Rahab Singh, along with his sons, went to help Imam Hossein. These Hindus call themselves Husseini Brahmins.
During 706 AD, they, being neighbor to Prophet Muhammad Hussein and Mr. Rahab Dutt, his 7 sons, they sacrificed their life. And once they found that they are having a lot of devotion with the Mohammedans, so they named them as a Husseini Brahmins.
Gandhi has famously said that he learned to fight against oppression through the life story of Imam Hossein. High regards have also been given by many Christian scholars.
What he stands for is universal, cosmic, and therefore I was deeply moved by the experience, and I keep telling to my Christian brothers and sisters that in the shrine of Imam Hossein, I had one of the most deepest possible religious experience.
Even today, the Christian community of Iraq participates in Ashura processions.
The struggle of Imam Hossein and his companions against injustice and their sacrifice in Karbala is truly not only an example of humanity at its best, but represents a chance for the diverse people of the subcontinent to unite together and struggle for justice. It is unfortunate, however, that the Indian Supreme Court declined the permission for Ashura processions this year. In the Indian-controlled Kashmir, the processions were attacked by the Indian forces, resulting in hundreds of people getting injured and hundreds getting arrested.
Those who cannot go directly to Karbala participate locally in processions which happen all across the globe on the 10th of Muharram and 40 days after. These huge rallies host hundreds of thousands of people at one time and even millions in some instances. The 2020 Muharram processions have been banned by the Supreme Court of India. The reason cited by the Supreme Court was chaos and COVID-19, even though the Hindu festival of Krishna Janmashtami was allowed with COVID controls and protocols. Critics say this not only represents a total loss of secularism and religious freedom in India, but shows that the radical extremists hold enough power to influence the Supreme Court's decisions in the country. In Indian-controlled Kashmir, the processions were attacked by the Indian police. Government forces fired shotgun pellets and tear gas to disperse hundreds of mainly Shia Muslims participating in the procession.
Using force is brutality. We thought India was a secular country, and in a democracy, all religions are supposed to be practiced freely. However, over the years, religious intolerance against particular communities has turned into something to be pondered upon.
We accept the fact that there is a pandemic, but the pandemic is not for one particular community. This is definitely double standards and interference in our religious affairs.
Officials in Srinagar Zadibah locally claimed that at least 200 to 250 Shia mourners were left injured in the clashes, most of them sustaining pellet wounds.
Now, to add some external perspective, we are joined by Mr. Sarbaz Ruler Rizvi. He's a Kashmiri activist and a political analyst. Mr. Rizvi, welcome to the Subcontinent. So, the story of Karbala brings people of diverse faiths together against injustice. Do you think this can unite minorities of India against injustice? Seeing that sacrifice of Imam Hossein and his companions in Karbala is mourned not just by Muslims but by Hindus and Christians also.
Bismillah, yes, indeed. The concept of Ashura and the concept of the movement of Imam Hussein is its essence with a humanitarian message. Every human being looking after justice and peace will find the story of Ashura and Karbala something really interesting, something really inspiring. What Imam did, what Imam's companions and his family did in the battlefield of Karbala in the days and months before coming to the event of Karbala. So, of course, there is no restriction of faith or any restriction of any sort of religious or sectarian idea regarding having any sort of love and being inspired by the event of Karbala. And this is what actually took place. This is the real picture on ground in the subcontinent, specifically in India. So, so many people, so many Hindus, so many non-Muslims of India, when they come to the story of Karbala, they find the message of Karbala crystal clear today. Interestingly, just in this, in this Muharram, in this Ashura that we passed almost 40 days ago, there were, campaigns on social media with the hashtag Hussein for Justice. So people were writing, people were tweeting, people were commenting with this hashtag. They were actually trying to bring the message that Imam Hussein, what he did was for justice. And the message of justice is something for whole human being. I don't think that there is anyone in this world that is not looking after justice, because it's exactly compatible with the heart and with the innate tendencies of any human being. And this is what we have observed. When we look to the stance of the well-known people, to Gandhi, to other inspiring people throughout history, they themselves were inspired by Imam Hussein. And I believe that anyone who is going to be introduced by the personality of Imam Hussein himself, the event of Ashura, the stories behind the event of Ashura and the movement of Imam Hussein, he will be for sure inspired by the mission of Imam Hussein, whether Muslim, Hindu, or Christian, or following any other faith.
Mr. Rizvi, our team has collected a few global media coverages in this regard, and I would like you to see that before moving on. So let's just get on with it, and then we can come back to the question and answer session. Please stay with us.
Food and sleeping arrangements, showers, washrooms, doctors on call, and even massage centers are available throughout the journey. Most of these are organized by local Iraqis with their own money, as there is no funding of any sort. Arba'een should be listed in the Guinness Book of World Records in several categories: the biggest annual gathering, longest continuous dining table, largest number of people fed for free, largest group of volunteers serving a single event, all under the imminent threat of suicide bombings. Some mourners were also seen raising slogans seeking an end to the Indian rule in the disputed region. The procession was not just peaceful but was also following health protocols. The government forces unleashed violence and did not spare even women mourners. Speaking to the print, pellet victims and their families accused the police of firing pellets and tear gas shells despite there being no provocation.
Thank you, Mr. Rizvi, and welcome back to the audience as well. So, Ashura processions were attacked in Kashmir. Many people were injured and imprisoned. What do you think about this?
The point is that this is not something new. Since almost 3 decades, the main Ashura processions of the Kashmiri people was banned. Yes, throughout these years, there were small gatherings, processions inside the colonies of Shias who were living in different parts of Kashmir. They had their limited, movements here and there. But interestingly, or shockingly, it's better to say shockingly, this year, even those limited, processions inside the Shia villages, Shia areas, Shia regions of Kashmir, they were all attacked brutally by Indian forces and by Indian security forces, by the police as well. The point is that specifically, I will talk about the recent years, specifically there is a new uprising, there is a new understanding, specifically in the context of the Ashura processions in Kashmir. People who are oppressed, who are suppressed after the abrogation of Article 370, who had no chance of showing their message, no chance of chanting what they demand, are making use of this environment provided by Ashura processions, the environment provided by the revolutionary message of Imam Hossein, to chant their slogans, to show their sentiments towards this political injustice that is taking place against Kashmiri people. So when people were there to show their political message amid the Ashura processions, Indian security forces, they detected it, and they decided to stop it as much as possible. And that's why what we are observing in recent years, that there are attacks taking place against the Ashura procession, because in these processions a political message is behind. And Indian security forces, of course, and the ruling party, and those who are commanding on Kashmir, they know better than anyone else that the processions of Ashura, they are not typical festivals. They are those processions and movements with a strong political message behind it. That is to raise against injustice.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rizvi, for being on our show and sharing your interesting opinions. Viewers, people have also voiced their opinions on social media regarding this situation. So let's find out what they have said.
Ida Baqirzadeh describes Arba'een as an event full of love and friendship, regardless of what background you come from. In this video, let's just take a look at the beautiful painting of the Arba'een pilgrimage drawn by Zehra.
Critics say that before Saudi Arabia started exporting the hate-fueled Wahhabi ideology, mourners participating in Muharram processions and religious gatherings in Pakistan did not need any security. All roads and shops would be open and there would be no restrictions or permissions required for the processions. However, things have now changed. After constant suicide bombings in Muharram processions and mosques, target killings and mob violence against the mourners of Imam Hossein, and a mass propaganda campaign to stop Muharram processions, the mourners are not safe anymore. But people participation is still increasing.
Every year, millions of Shias and Sunnis of Pakistan come together to commemorate, mourn and remember the sacrifice of Imam Hossein and the message of Karbala, which is struggling against injustice and oppression. However, some fear this unity might be under threat by Saudi-sponsored Wahhabi elements in the country who are trying to sow hate and division along sectarian lines, only to stop the message of Karbala from gaining strength. A shocking 2008 WikiLeaks diplomatic cable found sophisticated terrorist recruitment networks in the name of jihad in Pakistani cities such as Multan, Bahawalpur and Dera Ghazi Khan. According to the leaked cable, recruited children were sent to terrorist training camps in the federally administered tribal areas after brainwashing in indoctrination centers. The leaked cable further claimed that every year approximately $100 million were financed to Deobandi and Ahle Hadith madrasas from Saudi Arabia and UAE. Experts claim that Saudi Arabia uses Wahhabism as an ideological tool to manipulate the masses for the kingdom's own interests under the cover of Islam. A study by the European Union Parliament estimates that Saudi Arabia spent almost $10 billion to promote Wahhabi agenda through charitable organizations.
The events of Muharram in Pakistan are organized, managed and attended mostly by Shia Muslims. The Shias themselves, however, are facing terrorist bombings, targeted killings and kidnappings. It is estimated that in Pakistan, over 23,000 Shias have been killed since 1963. And the killing was once so rampant that some researchers described it as a genocide. The persecution is now taking a new form and shape, more open and more dangerous. The Muharram Ashura processions of 2020 in Pakistan were followed by massive anti-Shia rallies even in cities like Karachi and Islamabad, where bloodthirsty mobs collectively and openly chanted slogans against Shias, declaring them infidels while pelting stones at the community's mosques.
The Shia population is approximately 20% of Pakistan's population and have been for years victims of terrorism, hate and intolerance. Amid a surge in registration of blasphemy cases against Shias in Pakistan during the Islamic month of Muharram, the Tahrik-e-Labbik Pakistan TLP and Ahl Sunnat wal Jama'at ASWJ held a rally in Karachi against the minority community, during which hate slogans calling Shias infidels were chanted. Stones were pelted at a Shia mosque and participants demanded a ban on Muharram processions. A similar rally was also held in Islamabad, where in addition to the hate slogans and the participants were asked to conduct a social boycott of the Shias. Observers state that the law enforcement agencies remained bystanders and no action was taken against the perpetrators. According to Asad Iqbal Bhatt, the Vice Chairman of Human Rights Commission of Pakistan, the government has turned a blind eye to sectarian organizations that are spreading hatred against Shiites and other religious minorities.
For more analysis, we are joined by Mr. Musharraf Hussaini, who is a political analyst. Mr. Hussaini, welcome to the show. So, Muharram processions face constant security threats in Pakistan, even though Sunnis and Shias both participate. Why is that, and who is responsible?
In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful. If we just see, it's not an isolated event that's going on in Pakistan only. Around the globe, when this is the time when Islam is coming up and the world and the population of the world, the humanity is looking towards someone to give them relief from their social, political and other problems they are facing. And they're looking towards Islam. People want that they should bring in a bad face of Islam and present that. And to get that thing delayed, that the Islam becomes the ruler of the heart and mind and soul of the people, they want to get time, and for that sectarianism have been a tool throughout the centuries to delay the implementation of Islam and coming of the people towards Islam. So this is a part of that plan that international players are playing, and that's why this Pakistan is not a different thing. Pakistan, the people are very inclined towards the religion, So instead of them coming down and joining hands for this revival of Islam, they want that sectarianism should become a tool to prevent Islam to be the ruler in Pakistan.
All right, Mr. Hosseini, before asking the next questions, let's just see how media views this problem.
Processions are taken out across the continents on the day of Ashura. Shias across the world express their mourning in various ways. The Tazia, for the uninitiated, is a replica of the shrine of Imam Hossein, is a key feature of the Muharram processions throughout Pakistan. Tazias tend to cross sectarian and even religious boundaries with Hindus and Sikhs. Tazia Dari is a mixture of all the cultures, beliefs and faiths of the subcontinent and can be said a great religious unifying factor. In recent years, Ashura, which not long ago throughout the country was an occasion which Sunnis, Shias and others among Pakistan's ethno-religious milieu would commemorate together in harmony, has become an annual flashpoint in Pakistan's increasingly sectarian and violent religious culture. On Friday, hardline groups organized a large-scale rally against Shiites in the country's financial hub, Karachi. Thousands of people participated in the demonstration and chanted anti-Shiite slogans, including Shia Kafir, Shiites are infidel.
Welcome back, Mr. Hosseini. So why didn't the government or law enforcement do anything against the people who chanted hate slogans against Shia community, pelted stones at a Shia mosque, incited violence against the minority in anti-Shia rallies in Islamabad and even Karachi?
You know, if we go back a little bit in history of the Pakistan political system, after the Prime Minister Bhutto was toppled and General Zia-ul-Haq took over, after that, you know, Saudi Arabia started playing a very pivotal role in the politics of Pakistan and became the main player in the Pakistani politics. And since then, besides that, the Afghan problem and the Afghan war, and there also the influence of Saudis increased a lot, and in the system of Pakistan became subservient to what was dictated from Saudi Arabia. And obviously with the Saudis coming in, the Wahhabism also came in, and the Wahhabi school of thought, and that ended in the fiery thoughts and visions that came into Pakistan. So it is because of that the Pakistani system, although it is trying to relieve itself from those thoughts and visions and that subservience that it has been going through for decades now, but even then it's sometimes the system is unable to stand totally in front of those takfiris who are behind the scene present there, or they want to harm the harmony between all the Sunnis and the Shias. So the government at present has not been able to play its due role, but I think in the near future it will have to play a role, otherwise there won't be an option for the government to survive.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hosseini, for being with us on our program. Now viewers, let's see how people have reacted on social media and cyberspace regarding the problem, particularly in Pakistan, and then we can continue.
Musharraf Zaidi warns about the increasing sectarian hatred in Pakistan and believes Pakistan cannot survive it. He also suggests that people should be careful about their words and not engage in the arguments. Wajahat raises the question of why and how extremists in the country are so free to incite hatred. Also, Afrin believes that these recent anti-Shia rallies show the increase of sectarian violence in Pakistan. And at last, let's look at the tweet of Arfa Khanum Sherwani about the lesson of Karbala, which is, in her opinion, to stand against oppression under any circumstances.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was all for today. We hope you found our episode interesting and liked the show. If you have any comments or feedback, please reach out to us and stay updated through our social media platforms. We will meet the same time, same day next week. Thanks for watching.